The cross-examination of the first witness continues in the former Durban Mayor Zandile Gumede's graft trial. The court heard evidence in chief from the head of the city's Integrity and Investigations Unit, that's Mbuso Ngcobo. He says his unit learnt of the alleged fraud when a whistleblower left documentary evidence at reception. Gumede and 21 others are charged in relation to a dodgy solid waste tender worth 300 million rand. eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah is watching developments for us and joins us with the very latest. Good morning, Dasen. So we understand cross-examination continues today of Mr. Ngcobo. Just talk us through yesterday. What happened?
Well, that cross-examination just got started yesterday before the adjournment until today. But prior to that, Mbuso Ngcobo of the CIIU of the Ethekwini Municipality's Integrity and Investigations Unit, he was going through essentially the process of how a complaint is laid. So for those that are not familiar with that process, it essentially entails reporting to that office by whatever means. You can drop by there in person, you can drop off a document with any type of tip-off about corruption or fraud at the municipality, or you can use their email address or their phone lines to do so. But in this particular instance, Ngcobo told the court that this was done through, as you said, a bunch of documents that was left there at the office. And that was done anonymously. So then he also detailed the process of how they have internal investigators who will firstly assess that particular incident or look at those documents and then decide whether it is actually valid and whether an investigation needs to be followed through. And if that happens, then a panel of forensic investigators is brought in. And in some cases, like this one, a criminal case is also open. But with the cross-examination starting yesterday, Advocate Jay Naidu was questioning Ngcobo around certain parts of that investigation document and how it is filled out. So that's the very first part of how these cases are opened. There are details that need to be filled in, who the complainant was, what the case involves, which department or what value it is, and that's where we were. But I want to bring in now Mbuso Ngcobo, who's a legal analyst. Mr. Ngcobo, let's talk about that cross-examination, perhaps the trajectory that the defense is taking. So on the face of it, it looked like very technical information that was being given by Mr. Ngcobo yesterday, but it seems like the defense already is starting to dig holes in the very first part of the process of how a complaint is laid.
Yes, obviously the purpose of cross-examination by the defense is to discredit the case of the state. So what they are trying to do is, for example, if the person who gave a tip is anonymous, they want to know exactly how the process was done. So if there are loopholes within the process, then it might have a problem with the case of the state's case. So I think that's why they are going with this.
So let's look at it for what it is. We're talking here about the very first, the origins of the investigation, which later became a forensic report, which later became a criminal investigation. If there is found to be something irregular about how that document was entered when the documents arrived, does that compromise the state's case?
Yes, remember on Tuesday we did talk about that there might be objections of how documents were obtained and the processes and the legal processes or in terms of the law of evidence. So I think if they are able to prove that they were obtained in an irregular manner, it might assist them. But I was just thinking earlier that what is important is, as much as it was reported by an anonymous person, the documents that have been provided, they still need to be tested. So once they are tested, whether they are proper, it might then assist the state case. But if not, and there are irregularities, it will obviously assist the defense.
I'm just looking at the number of witnesses that we potentially have here, but I'm also looking at the number of legal teams that we are talking about. This would be the third day, and if this is only the first cross-examination of Ngcobo, we're in for a long haul here.
We're in for a long haul because even with the advocate Naidu, let's see, he will take his time as well to make sure that the people that he is representing are well represented, and he pokes at each and every hole. And that opens up a chance for others as well to poke holes where they see them, or the same holes that will be obvious. And then obviously it's going to take some time. And we have like 112 witnesses, so this case is going to take a little bit of time to be finalized. But obviously everything has to be dealt with, including cross-examination. You can't just ask 2 questions where there's a need to poke more holes.
And thank you very much, Mr. Kulu. I think he summed it up there, Mfundu, that this is certainly going to take a long time. If you look at the number of attorneys there, as well as the number of witnesses that we are talking about, and all of it being very technical, a lot of back and forth yesterday that we witnessed, certain issues of clarity that were being raised. The judge constantly reminding the court that this is the kind of work that people like Ngcobo do every day. But for the layperson or people not in that field, certain things need to be explained, such as the terminology. So all of that adding to the time that is taken in court before we end with this particular witness.
It seems it's going to be a very long trial. Dasen, thank you very much for that update. That's senior reporter Dasen Thathiah.